Ask 100 prepared Americans what ammunition they would stockpile if the shelves went bare tomorrow, and 90 of them answer without thinking twice. 9mm, the round the military carries, the round the police carry, the round in half the nightstands in this country. Those 90 are not wrong, which is exactly what makes this painful. Because I have stood behind a gun counter for 30 years, through 4 separate panics, and in every single one of them, the 9mm was gone by Wednesday. Not week 2, Wednesday. The most common round in America is the first round America runs out of, and the men who bet everything on it were standing in my shop by Friday, asking what I had left. What I had left is what this video is about. Today I am ranking 7 ways to keep a handgun fed when the trucks stop coming, ranked by the only scorecard that matters when the buying is over. And number 1 is not the gun the internet has been telling you to buy. It is the one that walked out of my shop slowest in every panic, and the men who owned it never stood in that Friday line. The scenario is specific, so let me draw it. A disruption serious enough that resupply stops. The distributors cut allocation. My shelves get stripped in 9 days, and whatever you laid in beforehand is what you have for a long stretch. Every option on this list gets measured against 5 questions. Can you still find the round after the panic buyers have been through? Does the same supply feed more than one gun? Will the gun run dirty, stored, and neglected? Can somebody in your house who isn't you operate it? And does owning it keep you inside the law in every state you might have to cross? That is the scorecard. Not which round wins the argument online. Which round is still on my shelf on Friday. 30 years behind the counter taught me one thing worth repeating. The men who buy calm, buy once. The men who buy scared, buy twice, and the second time, they pay double. I wrote everything I know about buying calm into a book called The Proof Mark. What a gun is actually worth, what to check before you pay, and how to read a used one so you never pay new gun money again. $27, link below, or scan the code on your screen. That is all the selling I will do. To the list. One note before the count. This is general information, not legal advice. Firearm law changes by state and by county, so verify your own rules with a licensed dealer before you buy anything I mention here. Number 7. The boutique caliber pistol. 10mm, 357 SIG, 5.7. Fine cartridges, every one of them, and I stock them all. Here is what 30 years taught me about them. In a panic, nobody hoards what nobody owns. The boutique rounds sat on my shelf through every one of those 4 panics, which sounds like an advantage until the small production runs stopped entirely. And then there was nothing to restock at any price. A rare round is the last to sell out and the first to vanish forever. You cannot build depth on a cartridge 3 factories make, and in month 3, the man with a safe full of 10mm is trading it by the box for 9mm he swore he did not need. Number 6. The 45. 2 world wars, 100 years of service, and half the men my age will tell you it is the only real caliber ever made. I love the 45. I own 3, and one of them is a 1911 my father carried, so believe me, this placement hurts. But love does not fill a shelf. Here is what the panic showed me. The 45 hardball, the classic 230 grain, held out about a week longer than 9mm, because the men who shoot it already had their stock at home. But when it went for months, because only 2 of the big factories give it a full production line, and every one of those lines switches over to 9mm and 5.56, the moment the government contracts come in. I watched my distributor sheet do exactly that in 2020. 45 simply fell off the page, and it did not come back on until the following summer. Then there is the arithmetic nobody wants to hear. 45 costs half again what 9mm costs on a calm Tuesday. Same budget, and the man next to you laid in 50% more rounds than you did. And the scorecard question that hurts the most. Can somebody in your house who is not you run it? A full-size 45 with a stiff recoil spring and a heavy slide is a hard gun for a smaller hand or an older hand. I have watched strong men hand their 45 across the counter to their wives, and I have watched the slide win that fight every time. In my shop, the 45 is the round men buy for themselves. It is not the round families run on. Number 5. The 380. The little pocket guns. And if you were anywhere near a gun counter in the spring of 2020, you already know why it sits this low. 380 was the first round in my shop to disappear. Not 9mm. 380. Gone by Tuesday afternoon. Here is the mechanism, because it will repeat in the next panic. A scare like that creates 1 million brand new gun owners in a single month. First gun, no safe, no training, and every one of them walks out with the smallest pistol in the case, because small feels manageable. In my shop, that meant the little pocket autos, and the little pocket autos eat 380. Meanwhile, the factories treat 380 as an afterthought. In the best of times, maybe one line running it, seasonal. So brand new demand met no supply at all, and I did not see a full shelf of 380 again for 14 months. 14. I had customers offering me double, cash on the glass, for the display box. The gun itself does its job, and I will defend it. A pocket pistol you actually carry beats the full size you left at home every single day. But we are not scoring carry guns today. We are scoring the round you plan to live on when the trucks stop, and a cartridge with afterthought production and first-day panic demand fails the very first question on the scorecard. You will not find it after the buyers have been through. You will not find it for a year. Number 4. The 40 Smith & Wesson. The one the internet declared dead. And here is why the internet is wrong for our specific scenario. When the police agencies switched back to 9mm, 2 things happened at my counter in the same season. Thousands of police trade-in pistols hit the wholesale market. I had a case of trade-in Glock 22s, holster wear on the outside, almost nothing through the barrel, and I could not move them at $300 while the same gun in 9mm walked out all day at 5 1/4. And the second thing, the 40 ammunition kept shipping because the factories were still tooled up from a decade of police contracts, while the man in my Friday line did not want it. So in the 2020 panic, 40 was still sitting on my shelf 10 days after 9mm was gone. 10 days. In a panic, 10 days is a lifetime. That is the whole trick of number 4, and it is the closest thing to a cheat code behind my counter. The round nobody wants on Tuesday is the round still sitting there on Friday. The honest downside is the long slope, and I will not hide it. Every year, fewer agencies run 40. Every year, another factory line quietly retools. And 20 years out, 40 becomes what 10mm is today, a fine round with no depth behind it. But for the man building his stock this decade on a working man's budget, a $300 police trade-in that eats a caliber the panic buyers walk straight past is the best value in the case. It just is not the best answer. 3 rounds beat it. Number 3. the 9mm itself. And now I have to be fair, because those 90 men out of 100 are not fools. Run it against the scorecard honestly. Does the same supply feed more than one gun? Yes. Pistols and the little carbines both, and that matters. Will the gun run dirty, stored, and neglected? A stock Glock 19 will run filthy for years, that is simply true. Can the rest of your house operate it? Soft recoil? Easy slide? Yes. Are you legal crossing state lines? With the right magazines? Mostly yes. And I say mostly because 2 of my neighboring states would like a word about capacity. 4 questions. 4 passes. That is why the military carries it. That is why the police carry it. And that is why I sell more 9mm than everything else in this shop combined. But the first question is the one the entire scenario turns on. Can you still find the round after the panic buyers have been through? And you already know the answer, because I told you at the top of this video. Wednesday. The most stocked round in America is the most bought round in America, and the most bought round is the first empty shelf. 4 times I have watched it happen, and 4 times the pattern held to the day. The men who ran 9mm alone had the best gun on the block and the emptiest ammo can on the block. And by Friday, they were in my shop asking what I had left. And what I had left is the rest of this list. So yes, own a 9mm. I do. But hear the sentence exactly. The 9mm is the best round to own, and the worst round to be, depending on. If your whole plan is 9mm, your plan is a Wednesday plan in a Friday world. Number 2. The 22 long rifle. Go ahead and type it in the comments. I will wait. Squirrel round. Bounces off a leather jacket. No real man stakes his life on rim fire. I have heard every word of it across this counter for 30 years, usually from a man buying 2 boxes of 45, and the men saying it are missing what the 22 actually is. It is the only cartridge in this shop a working man can own in real depth. Do the arithmetic with me. 5,000 rounds of 9mm is $1,500 and a heavy safe. 5,000 rounds of 22 is under $400, and it fits in 2 ammo cans. You can carry 1 in each hand. It feeds a rifle your 12-year-old can run all afternoon for pocket change. It feeds the pistol your wife will actually go practice with. And it quietly takes the rabbits and squirrels that actually show up when the freezer empties, which is a different kind of shooting than the internet plans for. Now the honest history, because some of you stood in the same lines I did. The great 22 drought, 2013. Shelves bare for the better part of 2 years. Hoarders selling bricks out of truck beds at triple, and I had a waiting list for a round that used to sit by the register like chewing gum. So no, 22 is not panic-proof. Nothing on this list is. But understand what the drought proved, not what it disproved. The men who had laid in their bricks beforehand, at grocery money prices, never felt those 2 years at all. And the round came back everywhere, because every ammunition factory in this country runs 22 on lines that never stop. Depth you can afford beats power you cannot. And there is one more thing, and I have seen the early edge of it in every panic. By month 3 of a real stoppage, a brick of 22 is not just ammunition. It is currency, in denominations small enough to actually trade with. Nobody is breaking a case of 45 into singles. A 50-round box of 22 is a $10 bill that every man in the county recognizes on sight. Number 1. The .357 Magnum revolver, paired with a lever-action carbine chambered in the same caliber. the slowest sellers out of my shop in every panic, and the owners who never once stood in my Friday line. Walk it through the scorecard and watch it do something nothing else on this list does. Findability. A .357 revolver also shoots .38 special. Every round of it, straight in, no modification, nothing to swap. That is 2 shelves in every gun shop in America, feeding 1 gun. And I will tell you from behind this counter, the .38 special shelf was still stocked in my shop when everything above it on this list was cleaned out. Because the old men who own most of the world's .38 do not panic buy. They already have theirs. 1 supply feeding more than 1 gun. The lever carbine eats the same cartridge, so the rifle over the door and the revolver in the nightstand draw from the same ammo can. And out of a 16-inch carbine barrel, the Magnum picks up enough speed to do honest work on medium game inside 100 yards. That is not a pistol pretending. That is a legitimate ranch rifle, and ranchers knew this pairing a century before the internet was born. Neglect. A revolver has no magazine spring aging in a drawer, no gas system fouling, nothing chambered wrong under stress. Load 6, put it in the drawer, and 10 years later, it fires. I have taken revolvers out of estate sales that sat since the 1970s and put every round on paper. Can the rest of the house run it? There is no slide to rack, no safety lever to remember, no malfunction drill to train. Point, press, and if a round ever fails, you just press again. I have put a wheel gun in the hands of 70-year-old widows and 12-year-old grandsons at this counter, and it is the only action I have ever seen both of them run correctly on the first try. And the law. A 6-shot revolver and a lever-action carbine are legal, as I record this, in every one of the 50 states, including the states where half the guns earlier in this video are felonies to even possess. No magazine limits, no feature bans, no assault weapon list in 50 years has ever come for the wheel gun and the cowboy rifle, and none is coming. 5 questions, 5 passes, the only clean sweep on the scorecard. Now the internet will tell you 6 rounds is not enough for the end of the world. Maybe. But 30 years behind this counter says the end of the world doesn't look like the movies. It looks like a long, quiet, ugly stretch where the winner is not the man with the highest capacity. It is the man whose ammunition still exists, whose gun still works after a decade in a drawer, and whose wife and boy can both use it without him standing there. That man, in every panic I have lived through, every single one, was holding a wheel gun. So that is the count, and the arithmetic at the bottom of it is simple. The rounds everybody buys are the rounds nobody can find, and the guns nobody argues about online are the guns still fed on Friday. Buy calm, buy once, buy before. If you have stood in one of those panic lines yourself, tell me in the comments what year it was and what your county shelf looked like, because the men who were actually there teach this better than I ever will. And if the count earned it, the subscribe button costs less than a box of 22. I will see you at the counter.